I'm curious, Eric, this is such another intense role for you. Was there something about
Yeah.
Perry and Girl Taken that drew you to this film?
I think it was really just the writing in the audition. And for some reason, I just thought I could take the character and really fight to try to make the situation work out for everyone, but I didn't have the full script at the time. So when I got the full script, I was like, okay, I'm like, this is a different beast of a role, something I've never approached before. And I actually just watched the movie myself the other night, and I personally think I pushed the intensity too far in the film at certain points. But at the same time, there's some really beautiful moments and some really great scenes. But the hypercritical actor I'm like, sometimes you realize you don't need to work so hard and that you can let the material do more of the carrying of the story for you. And so sometimes I find, as an actor, a lot of the times we feel like we're not enough. And so we're always pushing to indicate to the audience certain moments of this is how they feel or this is how, you know, what we think it should be, as opposed to just really being ourselves in that moment and letting the story unfold and letting the script do the work for you. And so watching it back, I'm like, there's some really nice moments, but there's also moments where I'm like, oh, I was like, I missed the love. I missed the love in that scene. And that's a big learning lesson as well, watching something back and being like, seeing missed opportunities. But when you shoot these movies, you shoot them so fast. This is an 11-day movie shoot. And everyone, we really did our best, but there's not a lot of time. You get a couple takes for each scene. And then it's really fast. And so there's not a lot of time for redirects or notes. And so it's kind of whatever you bring to the table is what it is. And so, yeah, like some of the moments in some of the scenes, I'm like, oh, that's great. There's a really nice intensity and a really nice, like, stretched out, just kind of tension between the characters. And
Yes.
then other moments, I'm like, miss the love. So I'm like,
No.
it's always a learning lesson watching back the work. And sometimes I feel like when you try too hard and you do too much, you make it about yourself and it takes away from the story. And so I was just kind of taking note of that. But everyone else in the film nailed it. Like they nailed their roles. Everyone did so freaking great and really proud of everyone in the film. So yeah, it's definitely, sometimes you watch films too and you learn more from watching a film that's like it's not flawless and you can just kind of see the little edges and you're like, "Oh, I can learn a heck of a lot more from watching that than watching a perfectly, nuanced film where it's like they spent half a year or a year making it." Whereas it's like you're not going to learn as much there because they had so much time to work out all the cracks. Whereas when something's so raw and visceral, it's like, oh, it's going to make you feel something. That's for
Well,
sure. And it's going to leave you with an impression and leave you thinking something.
you and Kennedy have that moment, those moments throughout
Yeah, for
this
sure.
the
Yeah, for
movie.
sure.
How did
But
they
yeah, even with
describe
my
Perry to
partner,
you?
Danny in the film too, I'm like, I feel like I missed that opportunity to make a really, to find the love and the support in that. And so, moving forward into the next project, I'm probably going to have too much love and too much support now. Swing the opposite way.
Well, how did they describe then Perry to you initially? Certainly, we know him to be this family friend, but do we know a little bit about how he became friends with this family and,
It
you know,
was through trucking, yeah. So Kyle, that's Rose's mom, played by Kennedy Rowe. And yeah, she nailed her. She nailed it. That's such a tough part to play, and she just nailed it. But her father, Kyle, and I were truckers together, and he passed away a few years ago on a head-on collision, and just kind of left her fatherless. And her mom's picking up all the slack around the home, doing a full-time job teaching as well. And, Rose just kind of gets left in the dust of the whole situation and feels a little alone and isolated. And then when her boyfriend breaks up with her on top of that, it's just, a recipe for disaster. And, you know, yeah, I don't want to do any
Big storm
spoilers,
there.
but yeah, so he found himself kind of taking on a more, in his mind, a more fatherly, supportive kind of role. But I just don't think Perry has the tools to know how to communicate, and navigate that realm very well as a lot of us. It's like our education is limited in life. We're only educated to what we're exposed to or to the environment we're raised in. And so Perry, you could tell his history. He was raised in a certain environment where maybe in his own household he was lacking proper parental, guidance, and so just some of his social behaviors and cues are a little outside the social norm. He tries his best, but it's just a little misguided is all. And so yeah, you see where the story goes, and you really try to work out and justify why the story goes the way it is. But like I say, you shoot the film so fast and you're trying to fill in all the empty blanks and make it work, and you got a whole marathon of a movie in your mind that you're trying to whittle down into a little thin thread. And it's like sometimes you're just weaving that thread and sometimes you fall off and into the cracks.
Well, I'm curious. You spend a lot of time with Kennedy in close quarters. Was there that instant bond you all felt? Did they give you much time to spend together with Kennedy beforehand to sort of flesh out these difficult moments where you guys are forced together?
Yeah. No, Kennedy and I, right out the gate, just had a really relaxed, like really wonderful connection. And so we were really comfortable with each other out the gate. And the first scene we started filming was us driving in my truck when I pick her up from the side of the road kind of thing. And there was just like a nice casual relaxed ease about that. And so we got to be comfortable with each other, shooting a scene that had kind of more just casual stakes. It's just friendly banter, and there's a little spark of danger in there, but most of it was us just kind of feeling each other out and vibing. And and we got to know each other that way through a slower process. And then most of my first 4 days of filming were all with my partner Rose. And so that was intense. Or with my partner Danny. But then when we went back to, doing the scenes with Rose, with Kennedy Rowe, then it was like there was this certain, we had had time to kind of flesh out some moments, or we had done so many scenes, both of us, that we had kind of an idea of the characters in the world that we were in by that time, that her and I were able to be like, okay, you know, let's just stretch this relationship dynamic and see what we can make of it. And, sometimes moments hit, sometimes they just slightly miss. But, we had so much fun. Kennedy and I had so much fun together, and, even offset, or like even after takes in between scenes, it's just really awesome, friendly banter. And that was lovely to have with somebody where you're doing scenes like this and you can, just laugh afterwards. And it's like, you okay? Yeah, okay, good. Just like goofy, silly fun. And so, yeah, we had a great time.
I
Yeah.
was gonna ask, how you guys decompressed after those more intense moments.
Yeah. Well, I think the crying might be part of the decompressing. It's like you just got to get it out of the system and then just breathe. But I don't know how Kennedy decompressed, because she really, she had some places she had to go to. But sometimes as actors, these big emotional scenes, they can act as a form of therapy in a sense, where, sometimes when we're just sitting there with ourselves in our day-to-day life, there can be a lot of emotion going on, a lot of bubbling under the surface, and we don't acknowledge it. We're like, I just feel off and I don't know what it is. And sometimes if you just sit there with yourself and just breathe, the emotion will come up and it'll show you, and it's usually not what you think it's going to be. It's usually something else, and it's like your subconscious pops a thought up into your mind, and it just hits you, and oh, and you're like, right, that's what it is. And so with acting, you're almost forced to, breathe yourself and your instrument into certain situations that just allows all this raw emotion to come out, and it is cathartic. It is therapy because anytime you're done a big cry, it's like you're like, ah, okay. You're like, ah, I'm back to like I emptied the reservoir, and you're like neutrally, you're energetically, you're a little more neutral, or maybe a little sensitive for the rest of the day, but then the next day you kind of refresh. So, she handled it like a boss. Yeah, that's not easy. And even Erica Durance too. I'm just so blown away by her and how compassionate she is. When she looks at somebody, you can tell that she really, really cares about, the best for everyone. And that love in her heart is so big and open that, it's really beautiful to witness that and then to see that translate onto camera. And it really just comes from the soul of her being available and actually caring about people deeply. And I'm like, just a beautiful human being. Yeah. That was a good, you see why some people have such big careers in the industry. And
Sure.
that's why, man, just a big, beautiful, vulnerable openness and really, not taking life for granted and just taking those deep breaths and really just taking it in. And it doesn't happen very often. We get so busy in our lives and so distracted that we don't take in the other people across from us or the moments. And that's really what it is. That's what it is. And she's so good at that.
I know. She's just
Yeah,
start to finish. The whole movie is just a
yeah,
thrill ride, and it's
yeah.
got such rave reviews. I'm curious. I
Mhm.
know you were very self-critical
That's right.
of your.
Actors, as we are, as we are. You gotta be honest. You gotta be honest. You don't want to be self-delusional.
I know you were critical of your performance, but are there some moments or a moment where you're very proud of the work you put into a scene? What scene is something that's really shines for you?
Uh, I think the biggest thing for me is the first third of the movie. I wanted to just bring a really relaxed casualness to it. And so the first third of the movie, I feel like if I could go back and refilm now, I would carry that energy more through as like the through line of the film. When I pick up Kennedy just in the truck and there's just like a really fun, silly kind of goofy banter and a nice relaxed kind of like, and for me, moments of listening where there's a world of history behind it. So when you listen to the information that gets sent to you, there's strong opinions about what you're hearing and the reactions that come out of those, like actually listening to what someone's saying and those realization moments. As actors, we geek out on this. How well are you listening and responding accurately according to what's being given to you? And some of those little scenes are great. And there's a really great scene with Detective, played by Shireen Haas, Detective Henrique, and there's just a beautiful little tension in there, and a little danger and a little friendliness, but just it's a subtle undertone, and yeah, I really enjoyed that tension and just like it's like a standoff, like an old Western standoff poker match. And even with Erica, we had this really great little scene, and there's just like a big realization moment in that scene where, it's a big decision moment for my character, and and just seeing that thought process in the moment on camera unravel. I really enjoy witnessing that. And even something as simple as like there's a beautiful little scene where I just get into my truck and there's a loose fan belt. And like I start up the truck and there's a loose fan belt, and it's just like, when you're acting it in the moment, there's no actual sounds of something going wrong. You just making it up. And then hearing what the post production team did with the audio and the editing and the way that like all these little things that I gave them, they actually like pimped out all the moments and made it better than it could have been. And I was like, oh, I'm like, bravo, you know? It's the team effort of some of these scenes and the moments. I'm just like, oh, good job. Like, you know, good job, guys. Like there's some really great moments in there. And yeah, so they actually gave me a copy of the film for demo reel purposes. So I'm gonna cut out some really great moments and share some of them on social. And so
Okay, good. There are some
people
moments
will
you
get to
approve
see.
of.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not, yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. You know, we're all perfectionists, and I think that's what makes artists keep going is that never-ending, aiming for the Mount Olympus, you know.
Talk about working with director Paula L. She makes the
Mm.
cinematography for this as well. The
Yeah,
shots are just wonderful. Jason Hybeck with the
yeah,
cinematography
yeah,
and Paula with every shot. Talk
yeah.
about working with Paula.
Well, it's such a finely tuned machine, this crew. They make 15, I think 15 movies a year. So all year round, these guys are just like, I mean, they're grinding. So they know exactly what they're doing and they're fast, they're quick, and the way they communicate is so it's sharp and it's like there's not a lot of deliberating about ideas. So it's if you have an idea, throw it out there and it's like, yeah, let's do that. Or it's nope, we're gonna do this because this. And it's not a lot of, sitting around in a powwow circle discussing things. It's really like action, action, action. And so Paula took on this film where it's like the entire time, you gotta be on a Red Bull the whole time to manage this film. And so she had her partner, a script supervisor, Nancy. I can't remember her last name, but a really great script supervisor. And those two together were actually changing the dialogue of the script as we filmed. And they're like, hey, we have some ideas for this scene. We want you to add these lines and take away these lines. And it's like, oh, great. And I'm like, I had that same idea. But we're constantly editing and rewriting the film as we're making it. And Paula's vision, she had done a lot of prep work on this. And so she was so sharp and clear in what she wanted and needed as far as getting the whole story arc out that it was just like it was quick, it was fast, and Paul is a great actress herself too. So whenever she had to give notes, it was usually a big note and sometimes she'd do a line reading and I would just be like, Paula, I'm like, that was fabulous line reading. I'm like you should be acting this right now. I'm like, well done. So she's got a great, I think there's something about actors that turn directors where they know how to communicate with actors. But like I said, sometimes there's just not enough time to do extra takes. And so Paula said to me, she said, I would love to do a bigger budget film with you one day and then we could have the time to do all these really nuanced insert shots and sliding shots in this because her and I had all these great ideas that were bouncing off each other and she's like, yeah, great idea, I would love to do that but we don't have time to do that. And I'm like, right, 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 right. And so we had to constantly find compromises of how can we shoot this scene as quick and efficiently as possible and try to make it the best we can with time as our limit. And so, they really wanted to get us out of there 12-hour days max, but it really should have been 15-hour days each day. And so it was really much like, hey, if you can do this in one take and we can move on, let's do that. And so, she's watching the monitor, editing in her mind as we're doing the scenes, and she's really being like, yep, that'll do. I can see the edit in my mind, that'll do. She's like, I would love to do another take and give you some notes and, finesse it, but we're just out of time. So it's like, she's always just kind of watching. It's like, yeah, that's good. Okay, good. Or she'll be like, hey, we just need this one moment. I just need you to say that one line, clear, like diction or, look this way because we're going to do an insert shot here. And so but then it's like, okay, action cut. Okay, moving on. It's like it's that kind of machine and very well oiled. So Paula I too. She's shooting a Christmas movie with Candace Cameron Bure right now, and that's I think a 15-day shoot. And so, has a few extra 4 extra days to shoot a movie. And so I think for Paula, like she's just gonna eat that up. She's good. She's really, really good. Really good. Really great communicator. Great energy. Shows up every day, like ready to play ball, and she, yeah, it's not an easy job, and she crushed it. She's really good. Yeah, I can't recommend her enough.
What's next for you, Eric? Have you started working on some other projects recently?
It's back to the auditioning board right now. I actually just shaved the beard the other day. It's the doctor roles and the CIA agents, and that's the stuff that I'm more used to doing and booking is a lot more of the police officers, FBI detective, that kind of stuff. So, and we're just kind of entering a new age bracket as well. We're aging up, so the auditions are all for 40-year-olds now and father roles. And I'm like, I'm not there yet, am I? But the gray hairs are coming in, and I'm like, oh, I guess I am. I'm actually going in today. I went and saw a doctor. My hair's starting to thin up in the back and the top. And I'm like, oh, we're getting there. I was visiting back home this summer. My mom's like, Eric, you're thinning. And I'm like, I know, Mom. I know. I'm like, I'm getting old. She's like, oh my God.
Her
So we're
baby's
gonna
all
see,
grown up.
get some blood work done and see if we can slow down this hair aging process.
What would you like to say to people who are fans and supporters of the wonderful work you continue to do on our screens?
Yeah, I think it's just, such the arts is such a long journey of growth. And so I always say to myself, patience and persistence. And that's kind of what it is. It's like you have to be persistent, continually pushing, learning, and putting yourself out there to fail. And so to the fans watching, I honestly, everyone's so lovely and so supportive and so encouraging, and they see the potential and they see the great moments and they see you trying your best. And I think that's the best thing you can do is just like thank you so much for all the encouragement and all the support and the understanding that it's an evolution of a journey. It's not like all of a sudden you get there. There is no such thing as getting there. And that's the beauty of the arts is it's just about the journey. It's just about, enjoying the process of all these lessons and growth along the way, and sharing that with people and having them witness your perfect imperfections that you reveal to, it's an interesting job where you're in the public eye all the time and everything you do gets seen with like a little, a little, what do you call that? A spectacle, everyone's looking in, and so others can be just as critical, but at least others, the way that we treat others, we give others a lot of love because we understand the bravery and the courage of a journey in the arts. And so I find a lot of people give me that benefit of the doubt. There's a lot of encouragement, a lot of support, and a lot of love. And I just so, so, so grateful for that. That, you can throw yourself out there, take a big risk, maybe not hit the bullseye, but you're at least hitting the board, and people respect and understand that, and they give you chances to come back and play again and again because they know you're only going to get better the more you do it, the more you fail, the more you try. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things of the journey is that, if you're willing to fight it out, if you're willing to be patient and persistent, that people are willing to go on that ride with you because, it's all a part of the journey, and it's just, yeah, it's a beautiful journey. Yeah, what we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for each other, really. We wouldn't be
Absolutely.
doing this if it wasn't for each other. Yeah.